This episode of the Business of Biotech is brought to you by Avantor. Every day, science has the power to change lives for the better. Avantor partners with the scientific community, pioneers and innovators in the lab and in bioprocessing to help solve complex scientific and operational challenges. Avantor delivers end-to-end support from discovery to commercialization for the global biotech and biopharma ecosystem, providing mission-critical products and services that are integral to advancing life-changing innovations for patients. Visit avantorsciences.com for more information. Welcome back to the Business of Biotech. I'm your host, Ben Comer, Chief Editor at Life Science Leader, and I'm pleased to speak today with Tolga Tanguler, Executive Vice President and Chief Commercial Officer at Alnylam Pharmaceuticals, an innovator in the RNA interference or RNAi therapeutic space. Tolga is a commercial leader with deep industry experience who has helped commercialize some blockbuster brands you may have heard of, such as Viagra and Eliquis. He also led Pfizer's rare disease group for North America before joining Alexion Pharmaceuticals as Senior Vice President and head of Alexion's U.S. organization. Tolga joined Alnylam in 2020 and has been a key player in expanding the company's footprint globally to more than 60 markets and dramatically increasing patient access to Alnylam's therapies. Thanks for being here today, Tolga.
Great to see you, man. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I wanted to start with how you got into this line of work. What attracted you initially to pharmaceutical drug marketing and commercialization?
Yeah, thank you, Ben. And I wish I could tell you that there was this great grand plan for me to join the industry, but it came a bit of I think, happenstance, and I feel very fortunate to be part of the industry, looking back after 25, 30 years. Essentially, my family is a good mix of a business executive and my mom is a psychologist who has been in the medical industry. So medicine was not a new territory for me. Um, while I was at business school, I had a number of offers, one of which was actually an offer from Merck that was part of the leadership development program, which really fit very nicely with something that my father always used to say, which is if you want to do something and if you want to lead something, learn from the bottom and understand how actually the sausage is being made. So Merck Leadership Program was actually a great opportunity, and that's why I actually picked it. And of course, again, science, medicine, technology weren't areas that were too unfamiliar for me. So that was actually a great start. Um, and again, I've been very fortunate being associated with great companies like Pfizer, Merck in the beginning, Pfizer throughout my formative career. And then, as you mentioned, I had the opportunity to join the biotech world, first with Alexion and now last 4 or 5 years with Alnylam, which has been just a phenomenal ride.
Yeah, you went from gigantic drugs to rare drugs, and now Alnylam might be heading back. The pendulum may be swinging back towards some larger patient audiences. I have to ask you about working on Viagra. What was that experience like? Was that the first big brand that you worked on?
It was, and frankly, what really intrigued, I was given an opportunity to work either with Celebrex or Viagra, and I made the decision early on that I would actually work on Viagra. What an iconic brand, and who wouldn't like to kind of learn and understand how an iconic brand works? And the second piece of it was, uh, unlike most of our medicines, in those erectile dysfunction category, doctors tend to abdicate the sort of writing these products to their patients. So I felt like I'm going to work with science and I'm going to work with these very unique therapies throughout my career. But Viagra will probably come once in a lifetime where you actually get to understand how patients think through. And it's obviously in those days, especially, it was a stigmatic category. And working in a stigmatic disease area and working with the patients all was very intriguing to me. And frankly, I never looked back after the experience. It really allowed me to understand how patients think and how to actually help patients with a condition that is so stigmatic.
Yeah, absolutely. I in the late 90s, I was working in a mom and pop pharmacy, is actually a compounding pharmacy. And I remember the Viagra sales team coming in, which maybe you can answer this question for me before I tell this short story, I promise.
I
I
want to
was
talk
always
more on biotech, but yes, let's talk about
Yeah,
Viagra.
yeah, just for a second,
Yeah,
bear
yeah,
with
yeah.
me here. I was always curious about why the sales detail team came into a pharmacy, given that, the pharmacists weren't writing prescriptions. Can you clear that up for me?
Yes, yes. Actually, in fact, when I was a year, when I started my rotation program at Merck, I spent in the field a year, and we were asked to go into these pharmacies. It was mainly because you wanted to understand how the pharmacist reacting to the patient needs and also understand if they see any demand. So we would actually just talk. It was always a bit of an optional call in those days. I don't think we do that anymore as an
Yeah.
industry. And you have, ability to capture a lot of data and insights through third party without going to these pharmacies. But it was actually a bit of an industry standard in the 90s. You're spot on.
Yeah, well, what I remember from the sales detail folks that came through was a Viagra calculator that you may remember this. It was flat, and you pushed a button on it, and the top kind of rotated around, and then ultimately stood the calculator up a little bit, which we were, as a high school male, I was very, very
Tho-
tickled by.
tho-
But anyway,
Well, listen, those are some of the practices that I'm so glad that the industry moved away from.
right. Well, I was going to use that as a segue to ask you, how launching and commercializing new therapies has changed since you worked on Viagra in the early aughts.
Yeah, I mean, listen, like everything, the industry had some growing up to do, and I think we did. And obviously, the diseases that I'm so keen on commercializing, which is simply a word meaning how do we get this product into the hands of the patients, and how do we actually generate value, and how do we then bring that value back to our companies that continue to innovate for transformative diseases that patients that need the most. So that's been my passion, and that's how we've evolved. And what I really like about the space that we're in has a lot to do with the words that I just used, which is high unmet medical needs and transformative therapies. And society right now, in the right way, start valuing and rewarding those actually products that truly make a difference, so that you don't get to work on spend a lot of human and capital to areas where you're just developing a Me Too product. That is no longer acceptable, and that's not where you generate value. And let me tell you also another personal story about why I'm so keen on actually working on those products. Is a lot to do with my son and his journey. About in the middle of my career, this is just before I start leading the rare disease unit in North America for Pfizer. My son was diagnosed with leukemia, childhood leukemia. He was 11 years of age, and even though I was in the middle of my career in the pharmaceutical biotech industry, and I always thought I was very patient focused, and I always cared about the impact that our medicines or potential medicines will make on people. But boy, when that hits you in your family in a very personal way, you start looking at things very differently. And frankly, that was one of the reasons why I was attracted to rare, because you knew that the impact, that individual impact you can make, is really profound on a single life. And now, obviously, with the therapy areas that we're working on Alnylam for the future, is what really excites me is you can actually make those profound impact in a much broader population. And what's so great about Alnylam is, and I guess we'll get into this, is the technology platform that we have that enables us to do, whether it's a single genetic mutation condition, or a protein that may actually impact a significant illness like hypertension or hypercholesteremia.
Yeah, well, thanks for sharing that story. Did your son survive?
He did. I should have said that. Yes, he's a annoying 20-year-old college student. He's doing great. And we all recognize that none of those things are for granted.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm happy to hear that. I wanted, yeah.
And by the way, I mean, let me add this. He wouldn't have survived if it wasn't for our industry and science. Because only 50 years ago, this was a death sentence. Now
Right.
the prognosis rates are as good as 90%. So that's the progress that we need to continue to make because there are a lot of kids out there, there are a lot of adults out there whose illnesses are not transformed yet. But we were
Right.
very lucky that we got into that bucket of diseases that science and medicine have figured out a way to solve it.